All right. Once again, 9/11 deep dive. Let's see if I can control this tongue of mine. Uh, with Adam Fitzgerald.
We're 1 year in and we're already falling apart.
Yeah, I know, right? You'd start digging in. You start digging into this shit, man, and like parts of your body start rotting that you didn't know existed.
It's like a banana peel. Like for me, it's my brain. It's like I'm starting to see like spotty memory and misremembering of names. And I'm 53. I just turned 53. My birthday was December 27th, and I'm like, I can't wait for dementia. This is gonna be great, and I'm gonna probably mix up Osama bin Laden with Mike Schmidt of the Phillies, and just become a mess completely.
Oh, that's horrible, man.
I know. We don't deserve this cruel punishment, do we?
Right. Absolutely.
How come this doesn't happen to Alex Jones?
I don't know. Well, no, because he gets sued for $2 trillion. That's why.
I know it's an ungodly amount, even though I have no compassion for him because I can't stand it. But I mean, that's an absurd amount. But I found out in that trial, Tommy, that it was alleged that he made about $78 million a year. And I said, wow, he makes that much money. It's appalling how many people listen to him, because one thing I noticed regarding Alex Jones is that over the last 25 years is that he's been telling people he's fighting the deep state. Meanwhile, he like a broken clock, he's right twice a day, but most of the time he gives off disinformation. And my problem with people like Alex Jones is that he's not like physically hurting people, right? But what he does is just as bad. He creates generations of people because he has such a wide range of people that listen to him. I mean, all walks of life, all ages. And what this does is that he creates generations of misinformed people. And they repeat these narratives that actually assist the state in regards to certain conspiracies that are true, but you won't know it because he spreads false ones. So
I don't doubt that Alex Jones is a Fed. What I do doubt is that he makes $78 million a year. I would venture to say they have conflated the value of the market of his company and his earnings. That's what I would say. That's kind of the way I would read that. Because I heard the same thing and I was like, I don't think he makes that much a year. I think that's what his company's worth at the end of every year. And so they're saying, oh, well, that's your net worth. That's your value every year is 78 million. So we can put it on you that you earn 78 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I look, I don't know his net worth. It's estimated that, he's, makes 70 million a year. I couldn't tell you. I mean, that's coming from the prosecution. So I guess they're meticulous in what they have to do or what they work. Did they inflate? I couldn't tell you. I'm not very good with
I just think they like, I think what they do is they intentionally misconstrue these analysis and say things in such a way that it makes the defense look bad. And I'm not willing to just take their word for it.
You always be critical of all sides.
Yeah.
Because in the middle is the truth, actually.
Right. So I would venture to guess that the company year after year is worth $78 million. But I have a hard time believing that he put that much cash in his pocket every year.
Yeah, I was stunned when I heard it. Like I said, there's no way this guy makes that. There's no way.
Right.
I can't believe it.
Yeah,
exactly. He does. I mean, he does sell like these vitamins or whatnot online, but God, $70 million worth. I mean, how much does bodybuilding.com make? I could, I find it hard to believe. Actually.
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I can necessarily believe that. I could believe that the net worth of his company at the end of every year would be around 78 million. But I have a hard time believing he puts that
Like
money
he
in his
himself
pocket.
personally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah. So we want to talk about the Patriot Act tonight. So this is it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and
Because
you know, it's an
it's
important.
like the best bill that Congress ever passed, man.
Yeah,
It's done
you're
so much good for the American people.
God, if you're an authoritarian, sure. Uh, but yeah, like I told you before we started recording, I'm currently uploading the Patriot Act to my WordPress because I think people really need to read it in sections. Like I'm uploading it in sections by pages, so it's easier to read. I mean, it's a long bill, and actually, it's been reformatted multiple times. So it is actually after like the attacks of September 11th. It was like on October, I think like 20th, that week of the 20th or the 21st.
Can we back up just a little bit? Because
Sure.
if I understand correctly, you would probably know more about this than I do. But if I understand correctly, the Patriot Act was written in the early 90s, late 80s. Is that correct?
That is not new to me. I'd never heard of that one before.
Okay. From what I understand, it was Biden was actually a co-author of the Patriot Act in the early 90s or late 80s. And it was something that they had been trying to push on Congress long before the attacks on 9/11.
Interesting. I'm not sure about. I'm not really familiar with that.
Okay.
I can't comment on that. Was it the Omnibus Counterterrorism Act of 1995?
I don't think so. I think it was written in like 91, 90, 91. But then part of me wants to say 89. But it was something that, if I remember correctly, Biden took responsibility for writing it.
Yeah, I mean, The Intercept actually wrote an article in just was it 2 or 3 years ago about the Patriot Act. It was written by Jeremy Scahill, by the way. It was a great reporter in his own right. And according to when on the attacks, they were talking about how Biden helped to become the primary architect of the Patriot Act himself, along with the Defense Department. Now, but as for like implementing the Patriot Act before September 11, 2001, that's news to me.
Yeah, from what I understand, they tried to push it into Congress for a vote, and it was rejected.
Oh, it may be. Okay, I understand. I understand. And like I said before, my momentary lapse of reason is kicking in. It was actually a proposal.
Okay.
And it didn't get passed. So, okay, I understand you now. So,
yeah,
it was actually a proposal in the like, was it you say 91?
I from what I remember, it was like somewhere between 89 and 91. For those dates, for some reason, are like ingrained in my head. I could be wrong.
No, you know what? This may sound actually familiar because bills actually could be proposed, but they could be held on pause or held in a state of suspension. And then what happened was I think that week in October I was talking about, it was actually Jim Sensenbrenner who introduced HR 30162, which incorporated provisions from the sponsored House bill of what is now known as the Patriot Act. And I think it was the following day or the day after that, the Patriot Act, it was actually passed overwhelmingly in the House by a vote of 357 to like, I think like 60 or 62 votes.
Yeah.
And it was like, and by the way, you would think the Republicans are the majority in there. It was actually the Democrats. So that just goes to show you in this regards, when it comes to dividing power lines, there isn't really much of a duopoly, I guess, when it comes to politics. When it comes to the greater, bigger issues, that's when you know that there's only one monopoly in power.
Yeah, like it's like anytime you hear the word bipartisanship, you
I
should
don't believe it.
cringe.
Yeah.
You should
I
just
don't believe
cringe. You're like, they're about to pass the worst thing we've ever heard. If they both agree, it's got to be bad.
You know, I just spoke with Kyle Metovic yesterday on his podcast. It was an awesome conversation. It was like 2 hours long. We talked about the
Kyle
false
is such a horrible human being.
What's that?
Kyle is a terrible human being. And I'm saying that because I know he's listening to this right now and hearing me say that Kyle is a terrible human being.
And meanwhile, he sung your praises.
I love Kyle, man. He's such a good dude.
That guy is phenomenal. That's the most broad topic conversation I've ever had with anybody, and it was fantastic. We didn't talk about 9/11 once. It was great. He's a great guy. That was fantastic. It was a great podcast. But anyway,
yeah, no, Kyle's a really good dude.
Yeah,
and he's a
great.
really smart kid. He just got married. He's
he's
really like taking on adulting like a champ, man, because I fought it with tooth and nail my whole life.
He's wise behind his ears. It's very deceiving. He's young too. He's like 27, 28.
He actually, I think he just turned 29.
He just turned 29?
Yeah.
His birthday was in December?
Yeah, it was just before he got married. I want to say it was in November.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, he got married, I want to say a week after his birthday. So
yeah, we've talked about like, this transparent duopoly in politics. And I said, what's funny is that there's only a left and right when it comes to domestic issues, healthcare, education, Social Security, right? That keeps the people divided. But when it comes to like war or the military industrial complex needing funding, there isn't no left and right. There's just one party. Yeah, we'll sign off on this. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the NDAA every year.
It's how much you need. How much.
Remember when they used to only pass that on Christmas Eve, so nobody knew what was going on. Now they're just blatant with it.
Yeah, they're blatant now. They don't even care.
Yeah, they're just
they don't even care.
We don't even care if you don't like it. Like, it's getting passed in your face, bitches.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Tommy, not to go off topic here, but I think I can't wait for the day when I see a politician just come on air and basically say, I really don't care what my constituents think. We're going to do whatever we want.
There was actually, it was very similar to that Judge Napolitano was having a conversation with a politician, and he said, like, aren't you concerned that the bill you are about to pass is unconstitutional? And the politician said, oh yeah, we don't worry about that. We pass it and we let the courts decide.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the problem that we're facing with. And this is what happened with the Patriot Act, like an overwhelming vote. And then right after that, Bush signed the Patriot Act into law.
Right.
And I think that was in late October, like the final week of October. That's all it took. And then right away, you had a wide range of critics, especially from the independent circles. They saw the danger right away. And they said that, one of the critics of the Patriot Act was its provision for indefinite detention and of immigrants.
And there were some people really like that were kind of like on the front lines of that, like Glenn Greenwald. I mean, he never bought into it.
Right.
And unfortunately at that time in my youth, I was in my 20s at that moment when that was going on. I just kind of bought into it. I was just kind of like, yeah, like whatever. And we were kind of told anybody that questions the purpose of the government and the government power is anti-patriotic. They're just not a patriot. And I had just gotten out of the military. I was in my young 20s. And I was like, yeah, stop being unpatriotic. I remember there was a woman out of, she was from South Texas. She was running for governor. I can't remember her name. I want to say her last name was Sotomayor, but I could be getting that confused with the
Maria Sotomayor.
might have been. But she was what they were calling at that time.
Sonia Sotomayor.
It could be. Anyway, she was running for governor of Texas and she was questioning everything. She was like, I don't know if I believe the narrative. I don't believe all this around 9/11.
Right.
Like, and I mean, she got hammered. Everybody, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, they all went after her. You know, and she was a conservative Hispanic woman from the Valley and was running for governor of Texas, and she just got destroyed in the media.
Probably labeled a traitor or rhino. I'm not surprised.
I remember talking to a friend of mine around that time and saying, man, I really like this chick until she started asking all these questions about 9/11. Yeah. And here I am, 15 years later going, wait, what the hell?
She was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she was right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big, some of the biggest critics, as you say, one of them was Glenn Greenwald. The other one was, of course, Jeremy Scale. Another one was Jesselyn Radack, who was actually an American national security and human rights attorney who defended Thomas Drake against the NSA. And what happened was, when the bill was passed, one of the provisions was the indefinite detention of immigrants and permission to even use domestic law enforcement to search like a house or a business without the owner's consent or knowledge about the circumstances. Right. And actually, it also expanded the use of the national security letters, which allowed for the FBI, the DIA, the NSA to search telephone, email, financial records without a court order, without a warrant. And this expanded across all axes of the state and federal law enforcement agencies. So in other words, there's no wall anymore. So all of these agencies are now working in conjunction with one another. And this was really the horrifying aspect of the Patriot Act. Yeah. And many of those provisions were set to expire like 4 years later in 2005 at the end of the year. But approximately like 3 or 4 years after its enactment, in the months preceding the date of its finality, supporters of that Patriot Act, including Joe Biden, by the way, we mentioned it before, pushed to make those provisions permanent with no expiration date. And then the critics of that sought to revise various sections of the civil liberties protections and tried to reverse that order. And in July of 2005, the U.S. Senate passed a reauthorization bill with substantial changes to several of the act sections, and the House bill, the reauthorization bill kept most of the act's original language. In other words, we'll modify the bill, but the strongest parts of the bill are going to remain unchanged. And so you had two bills that were reconciled in a conference committee, criticized by senators from both parties who were against the provisions anyway. And what happened was the bill was actually removed. The bill removed much of the changes from the Senate version and then passed on Congress about like a year later in 2006. And it was signed by, none other than our famous president, George W. Bush, in March of that year. And so, fast forward 6 years later, here comes Mr. Hope and Change and Obama, who actually was exponentially worse when it came to the Patriot Act, which, by the way, was now signed as the Patriot Sunset Extensions Act of 2011, which was actually now a 4-year extension of the key provisions of the act. And they included the following. This is really absurd. And this caused some people in the Bush administration to say, wow, we would have never gotten away with that. And that's roving wiretaps around the world. Even if the person is an American or a foreign national, right? If they go around the world, the United States can actually use wiretaps that exceeded the borders of the United States.
Right.
2, searches of business records without a warrant. 3, conducting surveillance of so-called lone wolves who are supposed to be labeled by the Justice Department, but because of a certain bill that was written by Bush in November of 2001, which was labeled the authorization for use of military force in 2001, which had a provision about expanding surveillance to Americans, where they could conduct and label lone wolves under the president. So this was a big issue, Tommy, in 2001, in November of 2001. The Attorney General, John Ashcroft, was in the hospital, and he was undergoing surgery. And he had no idea what was happening. So you have these White House lawyers like Richard Attenborough and John Yoo and Alberto Gonzalez trying to rewrite this memorandum. And meanwhile, Ashcroft's lawyers got there first saying, hey, you can't let these guys make amends about this provision that they're making with this memorandum. And meanwhile, there was a huge argument. Meanwhile, all these security people, Secret Service, are rushing to the hospital, and they're rushing at the side of Ashcroft, who at this point is ashen. He looks like, he's about to expire. And all these lawyers are yelling at him, and the Secret Service is right there screaming. And James Risen's State of War book, takes note of what was happening. And also in Richard Clarke's Against All Enemies, they wrote about this obscene scenario in this hospital in Washington, D.C., where they're arguing back and forth. And meanwhile, Ashcroft's lawyers basically got rid of Lighthouse Legal, but that didn't stop them, because what happened was Condoleezza Rice, the National Security Advisor under Bush, the Secretary of State, Colin Powell, and the Attorney John Ashcroft, the Attorney General, all had no idea that it was Vice President Dick Cheney who authorized this memorandum on his own. So when they got back to the White House, Bush, conveniently is on vacation. He's in Texas, Crawford, his ranch. So that means that Bush wasn't there, but it was Cheney. And they all found out that they were out of the loop regarding this memorandum, which was highly unconstitutional. And the White House legal counsel was behind it. And the people like John Yoo and Richard Attenborough, the names are never brought up. They passed this provision, which caused 3 main provisions, which caused high controversy with, the Department of Justice and even, foreign legal counsels from around the world, which led to, by the way, an arrest warrant for those who signed this bill. And they've expounded on 3 provisions. 1 was the expanded surveillance abilities of law enforcement inside the United States, tapping phones, domestic and international lines without a warrant. 2, easier interagency communication to allow federal agencies to effectively use all available resources in counterterrorism efforts. In other words, a blank check for these people. And it doesn't matter if they label you a terrorist. Meanwhile, it's not up to the Department of Justice anymore. It's up to the president to label you a terrorist. 3, increase penalties for terrorism on an expanded list of activities which would qualify for terrorism charges, meaning indefinite detention outlined in the Patriot Act. Hey, guess what? That's what's happening to Americans right now for labeled terrorists in January 6th riot.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's happening currently. Well, and by the way, 20 years later, it's a visiting on Americans.
After Snowden came out with it and released all the documents that he released, you know what they did? They turned around and said, okay. We won't spy on you anymore. But what we're going to do is we're going to strike a deal with MI6. And that any information that they are allowed to spy on American citizens in the United States. We will not stop them. And if they find information on you, then they can turn it over to U.S. intelligence, and U.S. intelligence can then use it against you to hold you to account. Right? So not only is your own government spying on you illegally, they have employed foreign agents to spy on you and to then turn the information over, right? And so this was one of the things that was going on with the counterintelligence agencies when they were spying on people, was they had to find excuses for getting this information. So what they can do is they can spy on you, get the information, turn the information over to MI6, and then have MI6 then send the information back, and they can utilize that information against you.
Yeah, I look, the worrisome part about all this, Tommy, is that, you know, before the attacks of September 11, 2001, and before the signing of the Patriot Act by President Bush, was that there were walls for a reason. And those walls basically so that certain agencies couldn't like access information. So in other words, they had to go to in other words, if the NSA wanted to conduct a wireless tapping program on a specific individual who's, you know, suspected of terrorism, they actually had to go to a court order. And, you know, if it was a foreign national, it's called a FISA warrant, right? So when it comes to a domestic person who's labeled as terrorist, they had to go to a court order, and then they had to produce an argument about why this person is actually deemed a terrorist in the first place and what warrants a separate wiretap on him. And when it comes to like investigating your emails or your cell phone, that's a separate issue. Now you have to go you have to go to another court to approve, judicial court, and approve for a warrant based on that. Now with the attacks that gave rise to the Patriot Act, all of those walls, from the FBI to the NSA to, you know, the CIA, all these agencies, local and domestic, all of these walls are gone. And all those provisions, now there's no warrant. Now they could just take your information and store it, which is what they did in 2003 when they built the Utah Data Center. And William Binney came out and he said that the NSA, and this is the reason why he quit, him and Kirk Wiebe and Edward Loomis, they all saw that the programs that the NSA were running after 9/11 was invasive.
Right.
And so their program was actually Thin Thread, which was a program where it would protect the person. In other words, they would grab your information but protect the identity of the person. And there was this wall between other agencies invasive collecting that information. Well, the NSA after 9/11 implemented a program to replace that, and it was called Trailblazer, but it didn't work. But guess what? All the NSA contractors and contractors from the U.S. Army and other agencies poured in tens and tens of millions. It was like an $80 million program. Meanwhile, the Thin Thread program, you know, got no attention to it, but it worked. And it helped the, you know, the person and hide their identity, you know, protect their identity. With Trailblazer, no, that wasn't the case. The NSA then said, all right, that program didn't work. Now they're just invasive and they take your program. So later on, thanks to one technician from AT&T named Mark Klein, I think it was 2007 or 6 or 7, he went into a room in San Francisco where, you know, he's checking the rooms and notices there was
that's a server room. They had that little secret room behind the server room.
631A. That was the name of the room. 631A. And he had no idea. He had no access to it. Meanwhile, he's the main technician of AT&T.
Right.
He's like, what the hell is this? Meanwhile, it was the NSA running cables inside the mainframe of the servers inside AT&T. And what happened was earlier that year, Obama later on told went to the managers of AT&T and I think Verizon as well and said, can we have access to all of your customers' data without a warrant? And they agreed.
Yeah.
And that was a big issue. So AT&T actually sued Obama, and so
Who
did
was
Chris
that?
Edmonds.
Who was that guy that was running the he was running an email company, and I think it was either the NSA or CIA came to him and said, all right, here's what we need you to do. We need you to collect all the data and send it to us as it's passing through your servers. He refused and his company got shut down. Do you remember this?
Yes, and you know what? That's going to kill me because I remember seeing this not too long ago. It was about maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago on YouTube. And yeah, I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah. So what these guys, what the intelligence agencies were doing, it's kind of like what they were doing with Twitter. If you look at what the Twitter file, like the Twitter files, they were putting pressure on individual companies, tech companies, like especially email companies, and they were demanding that the email companies send like forward a secondary draft of all emails flowing through their servers. And this guy refused. He was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That breaks the privacy of my users. I won't do it. And so he ended up shutting down because they put so much pressure on him. And you know, it's just like you use, a lot of people use these services like Proton Mail because they're supposed to be encrypted. But it's like, okay, they can be as encrypted as they want. But if your information is being forwarded from the server through an algorithm that grabs it and ships it out as soon as it touches that server, then you're screwed. You know, like all your information is going out.
Was it Joseph Naccio?
It could have been
From
Georgia, I want to say.
Quest. He's the former CEO of Quest.
Could have been. That could have been it. I want to say he ran his company out of Georgia, I want to say. But I'm not positive about that.
Yeah, yeah, me neither. So I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they built. The NSA later on built a data company, in Pine Bluff, Utah,
Called Facebook.
Was it?
No, I'm just playing.
I was going to say.
Well, all social media companies are funded through In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA branch for financing. If you look up In-Q-Tel, it links you directly to the CIA. So the CIA was running money through an NGO called In-Q-Tel and in laundering that money into social media companies to prop up specific social media companies.
Well, that's interesting.
That came out on ABC News back in 2009.
Okay.
Just like you look up In-Q-Tel CIA social media, and the first thing it'll pop up, I guarantee you, is going to be like ABC or CBS.
Yeah, it comes right here. In-Q-Tel.
Yep.
That's interesting. I never heard of this.
Yeah. And that was back in 2009 that story was broke.
Yeah, it's an American nonprofit venture capital based in Arlington, Virginia, of course.
Funded by the CIA.
Yeah, funded by the CIA. Look at that.
And it was used to prop up social media companies like Facebook and Twitter. So when people come out and say, well, it's a private company, bro. And I'm like, no, it's not. Go back and look at the history of it.
Oh, it's very public.
Where did the funding come from?
Interesting.
The funding didn't come privately.
You know, it's interesting. They also share, it says here, they have 5,600 shares of Google. So they're involved with the ownership of Google.
Yeah.
So Wow, this is a big company too. I never heard of it. So
Yeah.
thanks for telling me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Shoot.
That's the type of crazy shit I'm interested in.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's stuff like this. You know,
Well,
like
and like the 2-step rule, right? You know about the 2-step rule, right?
no.
All right. See, this is how they got Trump. All right. So what happens? You have the 2-step rule. This came in with the Patriot Act. It was like, let's say I suspect you of committing a crime. So then I'm going to put resources on you. Now, anyone you talk to, I can now surveil. But not only can I surveil everyone you talk to, I can surveil everyone they talk to. That's the second step. It's the 2-step rule.
That's the branch out effect of the NSA.
So
interesting.
So the way they were able to surveil Donald Trump in his presidency was they caught one of his low-level people on his campaign chatting with somebody who was a foreign intelligence agent, surveilled that person, surveilled the person above him, and then that person led them to Trump. So then they could then surveil Trump because that was only 2 steps. It's like it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, man.
This yes, there is.
It's 2 degrees of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's something else, man. I didn't
But
know.
that's the rule they use to be able to surveil Donald Trump.
You know, that sounds familiar with the program that they ran under the Clinton administration, Promise Software. They claimed that the Israelis were actually using software to monitor the intelligence services, and that was through the art student ring in 1999, 2000. And you know, Fox 5 tried to blow the whistle on that, and they had to end the series. It was supposed to be a 10-part series. A lot of people don't realize that, but and I think it was only 3 parts or something like that. Fox had to shut it down. I guess that was pressure from the Israeli lobby, you know, trying to, you know, alleviate the illuminating and very expansive, invasive nature of Israeli intelligence inside the United States during that time. But not to get lost in the topic. In, you know, in 2012, you know, our friend Barack Obama actually renamed the Patriot Act to the USA Freedom Act in 2015, and then reenacted the expired sections to extend to 2019 of the old Patriot Act. So he got away with murder, Barack, and he was actually worse than Bush when it comes to invasive civil liberties of everyday Americans, and not just everyday Americans, but to people around the world. And it wasn't just the NSA now and the Five Eyes program. And for those who don't know what the Five Eyes program is, it's the 5 intelligence services of around the world. And
isn't it Canada?
Yeah,
Australia, UK, America.
Yep.
There's another one. What's the other one?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. There you go.
Well, now it's 30 countries.
All them white people. It's all the white people.
Yeah, it's all damn them. It's not Africa. These, you know, damn these crackers, right? You know, damn it. Yeah, it's actually all the major players in signals intelligence.
Yeah.
And so now all these countries, you know, could share intelligence about their own citizens with each other. And, you know, one of the big provisions was Section 215, which was amended to disallow the NSA to continue its mass phone data collection program. But by then it was too late because the Utah data center was actually open for business in 2014. And the place is, a lot of people don't realize this actually exists, Tommy. You know, I tell people that, like, what is that place? It's actually a data storage facility.
It's Area 51. It's where they hide the aliens.
It is bigger than Area 51. It's so big. In fact, the first day it was open in Pine Bluff, Utah. The first time it opened, it used up half of the state's electricity and shut down electricity for like 850,000 people. And basically I said, my God, man, what the hell they got in there? And it's all
Maybe
your
that's
emails.
what they're doing here tomorrow. They're telling us our electricity is going to be off for 2 hours tomorrow. Maybe they're opening up a new fucking plant, intelligence fucking server center in Orange, Texas.
Well, if you're in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
guess what? They were supposed to build a second data center in Texas.
I hope they don't.
So there you go.
I hope somebody blows it up.
Maybe. Well, why isn't somebody attacking this place? Right? You know, you can't. Well, in other words, you can't.
Have you heard about the attacks on the power grids lately?
I heard something like this on Twitter, but I'm not too familiar with it.
So
Can
there
you
was
explain a little bit, brother?
yeah, there was. All right, so I want to say like 2 or 3 months ago, it was in Virginia. Somebody shot up a power grid with a pistol, and then there was 2 guys that attacked a power grid in Washington State. And then I think it was just over this past weekend, some dude attacked a power grid just outside of Las Vegas.
Why is this happening?
I don't know why it's happening. I was just asking if you'd heard about it.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, that's
because people are crazy and are attacking power grids, man.
Yeah, I'm not about to put my hand on like a live wire, just to, screw the state over. Why don't they just take a bomb-laden truck and go to the Utah data center and blow?
Well, this last dude, from what I understand,
by the way, I'm not advocating for that for those who are.
This last dude, from what I understand, it was crazy. He drove his car through the gate into the nuclear power plant, drove to the reactor and lit his car on fire, and it ended up melting down a transformer that at this moment in time happened to not be in use.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, that's first of all, it's not helping anybody by doing that because it affects God knows how many people.
Well, it just shows you how effective the Patriot Act is.
Right, exactly, right.
They'd rather stop parents going to schools and protesting the things their children are being taught than some wild motherfucker setting his car on fire and driving into a nuclear power plant.
I can't see like the actual long-term effects that would be beneficial in doing that. What are you trying to cause? A secondary Chernobyl type of incident?
I don't know, man.
Know. You're hurting the very people that you're trying to help by doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't get it. But
well, let's get into the long-term effects of the Patriot Act, because I mean, we're having a lot of fun, and we could probably talk for days about all this crap that's been going on, and like it's just
it would be like a week-long podcast.
Yes. Yeah, we could talk forever on all this stuff. It's just there's so much, and it's so depressing sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the big issue. It's like none of this has a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And it was originally sold to the American people that it was to be utilized only on foreign entities that intended to cause harm to America. Right. Yeah. Now we're looking that these same tools that were created under the Patriot Act are being used on American citizens. Whether you brought up January 6th earlier, I brought up parents protesting the way their children are being taught at freaking parent-teacher meetings. The FBI is abusing the power. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe you can answer this question. If I'm not mistaken, since 9/11, the United States has never been taken out of emergency, like, how did they say it?
Emergency preparedness.
Maybe that's it. It's like we're always It's basically like we're always in a situation of constant war. And if that's the case, and they're perverting, they're abusing the power that is given to them under the War Powers Act, then I mean, they can pretty much do whatever they want.
Well, yeah, I mean, all right. So what happened was after the events of September 11, 2001, in that first 2 months, was that the Emergency Preparedness Act, as well as the I want to say the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, right, the FISA Act, gave way to like an open-ended like surveillance state forever. And this, there's no end to this. So in other words, how can I put it like this? So I'll put it like this. When I talked about Section 206 of the Patriot Act, just imagine this in simpler terms. So I don't want to lose the audience. So what this section does, and this is forever, by the way, there's no end to this, because like you said, we're in that constant state of like, I guess heightened security or terrorism, whatever you want to call it, because we're not at war with a country, we're at war with an idea which has no end, which was ingenious when they said that, oh, we're at war on terrorism. What does that even mean? Right? So Section 206 allows for, and I'll just keep it in the United States, it allows for any state and local authority to conduct roving surveillance, as I talked about before, not just abroad, but I'm talking about here in the States. So in other words, the FBI or the NYPD or the Joint Terrorism Task Force of your city can wiretap every single phone or mobile communication device or even your internet connection that a suspect might be using if he's labeled a suspect, right? Without ever having to identify the suspect by his name. This is the horrifying aspect of this Patriot Act. Now, this gave the FBI a blank check, literally a blank check, to violate the communication privacies of countless innocent Americans. And the first person to actually sue this, the State Department was Chris Hedges. He sued Obama and he won. But Obama's lawyer said, no, Chris Hedges has no standing, and threw out the suit. And so what is worse is that these blank check wiretap orders can remain in effect for up to 12 months or an extended period of time of up to 5 years. So imagine what these people could do regarding, say, hey, we think this guy might be involved with terrorism. Let's do a welfare, like a signals intelligence check on him. So they collect all your privacy and data without a warrant. And basically just stake outside your house and, listen to your phone taps, just listen to everything and read all your emails and text messages. And, if they see something suspicious, they might, arrest you or detain you. And it's called indefinite detention. And that was first visited upon the detainees at Gitmo. But now it's at Americans. And like I said, with the January 6th rioters, some of those people didn't even get access to a lawyer.
Right. Yeah. And they're being detained in solitary confinement for trespassing.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like that's a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I dropped my cigarette. Sorry.
No, fine.
Go ahead. I can hear you. I still got the headphones on.
I don't know how many people can appreciate the horrors about the Patriot Act and what this means, as you say, in the long term. Well, in the long term, basically what could happen is that the State Department or the House of Representatives or the Democrats, they ever got together and wanted to become truly authoritarian and totalitarian, is that they can actually reauthorize the Patriot Act. Oh, you think they couldn't? Because on March 10th of 2020 there, Tommy, of all people, Jerry Nadler proposed to reauthorize the Patriot Act. And then it was approved by a majority of the House of Representatives.
Well, and what I was trying to think of, they have they have the United States labeled in a state of emergency since 9/11.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I just found the article I was looking for, because I wanted to. I think even you'll be shocked by this article, because when I read it, I was like, "What the hell?" All right. Here's a list of the 31 national emergencies that have been in effect for years. This was published in January of 2019. All right. So this is before COVID. November 14th, 1979, the national emergency with respect to Iran in response to the Iran hostage crisis. Never been lifted. November 14th, 1994, national emergency with respect to the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction that combined two previous national emergencies focused on weapons of mass destruction. Never been lifted. January 2nd, 1995, national emergency with respect to prohibiting transactions with terrorists who threaten to disrupt the Middle East peace process, placed economic sanctions in response to the Jerusalem bombing. Never been lifted.
Oof.
March 15th, 1995, national emergency with respect to prohibiting certain transactions with respect to the development of Iranian petroleum resources was an effort to prevent potential deals between oil companies. Never been lifted. October 21st, 1995, national emergency with respect to blocking assets and prohibiting transactions with significant narcotics traffickers centered in Colombia was declared after increased reports of drug cartels laundering money through American companies. Never been lifted. March 1st, 1996, national emergency with respect to regulations of the anchorage and movement of vessels with respect to Cuba was after civilian planes were shot down near Cuba. Never been lifted. When's the last time we had an issue with Cuba? That was in 1996.
Yeah.
97, national emergency with respect to blocking Sudanese government property and prohibiting transactions with Sudan implemented economic trade sanctions. Never been lifted. I can go 2001, 2001, 2001, 2001, 2003. This keeps going, man. They announce these national emergencies, they never lift them. I have a list here of 31. How many do we not know about?
Well, that's stunning. I didn't know it was that much. God's sakes. I don't even know what to tell you. Wow. That's a seam stealer.
I'll send you that article when we're done.
Please do.
And this is a mainstream cozy with the power elite article. This is from ABC News.
When was it written?
2019.
Oh, just recent too.
Yeah, right in the middle of sucking the dick of the elites.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
31 national emergencies that have been in effect for years, never been lifted.
No, it's stunning. I wonder why they haven't been lifted. I'd like to know.
Because it gives them that power.
Yeah, right, sure. I can understand. Like there isn't.
It's as good as declaring martial law, really.
Sure, but there has to be like critics of that too.
No, because you declare a national emergency, the public forgets about the national emergency, and you never lift the restrictions.
Because it would help
Yeah.
the state, you know,
If you never lift the restrictions, you continue to have the emergency powers.
right. Yeah, the emergency, right. Okay, I understand what you're saying. But wow, that's 31.
Yeah, 31. You want to read through 2001 real quick? We can go through 2001. National emergency with respect to blocking property of persons who threaten international stabilization efforts in the Western Balkans, impose sanctions on those aiding Albanian insurgents in Macedonia. That was in June of 2001. August 2001, national emergency with respect to export control regulations, renewed presidential power to control exports in a national emergency since the Export Administration Act of 1979 lapsed. September 14th, 2001. Oh, shit. We lost Adam. Well, damn. We were about to get into good stuff. Looks like he may have lost connection. Let me see. William texted me. I don't know what's going on. Well, that sucks. Maybe the feds got him. He is in New York City. It's a lot easier to get to him than it is to me. So maybe the feds got him. All right. So we'll keep running through this for y'all's sake. September 14th, 2001. National emergency with respect to certain terrorist attacks was in response to the terrorist attacks of 9/11 and the continuing and immediate threat of further attacks on the United States. Still in effect. September 23rd, 2001. National emergency with respect to persons who threaten to commit, or support terrorism was in response to the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And it just keeps going. We have several in 2004, 2006, 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 12, 14, 14, 14, 15. Just constantly. All the way up to 2019. And you think they haven't declared any since COVID? Sadly mistaken. Bottom line is they're utilizing the Patriot Act and the powers that were given to them through these national emergency acts to bottleneck you, to stop you. And hey, look, Adam's back. Hey, I was just talking.
The state is listening.
Yeah, I know. I was like, he's in New York City. It's a lot easier to him than it is to me.
That never happened. Usually you're the one with the connection problems, right? I have to apologize. My computer just suddenly restarted on its own. And I'm like, wow, I didn't press any buttons. You know, I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just I just continued. I saw that you had disconnected. I continued reading through these good. For the audience. And I was explaining that they're utilizing these emergency powers that have been in place since the 70s to limit your freedoms. And they're doing that, like, whether it's through the veil of 9/11 or through the veil of COVID, they're utilizing these national emergencies. Never let an emergency go to waste. They're utilizing these national emergencies in order to curb your liberties and to enslave you to the state.
Yeah, look, and I think a lot of the provisions that have been coming out as of late, I'm talking about, like, you're talking about, many, many decades ago, but as of late, they're like it's almost like they're worsening. And I think what's
Yeah,
most
see, but I don't look at them as separate. I look at them
as
as
one whole thing. No, I
as
got you.
building blocks.
Yeah,
Like,
as building blocks to it.
yeah,
Right. Right.
you got to do a little at a time. You can't just dive in. Like, I
You
didn't
know,
meet my
because
I
you'll
didn't
catch
meet
the
my
attention.
wife and
I
eat
got
her
what you're
pussy
saying.
that
Right. Yeah. You'll catch
the
the
first
attention of the
minute.
majority of the public.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
Um,
you don't eat her pussy the first minute. You got to warm her up to taking her
okay.
pants off. You
Okay.
eat her pussy with, like, the minute you meet her. That's called rape. You got to, like, convince her to give it up.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would agree. No, listen, I think that's a fine point, because let's just say if they all just came right out and said, all right, we're going to, start invasive privacy issues and laws and regulations. Well, everybody's going to stop, fighting each other over sexism and racism, and just basically turn around and say, hey, wait a minute, you're not going to do that.
Yeah, but you get people used to it. It's
Yeah,
like
you got
one of the
right.
things that
Right.
Edward Snowden always says, the thing he's most disappointed about is people aren't more up in arms about the revelations.
Oh, you know what? I think he hit the nail on the head, because when that came out, what was it, 2011? When he was in China and meeting with Glenn Greenwald, I said, wow, this is, here it is, right?
Well,
And
and you know what the corporate press said? Oh, yeah, we already knew that.
right, but
Yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah, we already
I
knew
can't,
that.
well, Tommy, I couldn't believe he only revealed 1%. I mean, he still has files that he hasn't revealed yet. And I don't know if he's ever going to, but nevertheless, Tommy, everybody should have been up in arms, because even the press got, unbelievably, the legacy media even report on it, because it was so big and so enormous that they couldn't ignore it. So it was a huge issue. And guess what? Nothing. To me, I'm stunned that nobody really wants to pay attention to these issues. And that's why I make it a big issue on and I'm not, I'm nobody, but on my WordPress, I upload so many files that Snowden has released, the important ones anyway, regarding data mining programs like Stratus Ivy, I think it was QQuest, or they have these silly names, but like I upload them on my WordPress so that people can see and understand. I put it on like Twitter and stuff like that. But I'm like, I would love to see a huge platform, like, say, unfortunately, I hate to use like Tim Pool, right? Somebody who has a very big platform that could reach a lot of people to talk about these issues that we're talking about right now. No, they'd rather talk about, January 6th. They'd rather talk about, something that's, trivial.
Hey, January 6th was bigger than 9/11, don't you know?
Believe they actually said that. I mean, oh Lord, man.
It was the new Pearl Harbor.
I mean, God, I cringed when I heard. You know who said that specifically? I don't know. I don't know who's.
I can look it up. I mean, I can find out real quick.
Remember when that? I want to say it was Alexander.
Well, wait,
no,
it's probably Don Lemon.
I hate that guy. Don Lemon. Oh. Him and Sean Hannity, Ugh. I want to say it was a Democrat that said it.
It was a Democrat. I do know that. I just don't remember who the first one to say it was, because it's become a talking point.
Yes, it was. January 6th is worse than. I'm going to cheat.
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who the first person to say it was. Well, that was in 2021.
You know what I noticed too? A lot of these online
FBI. Oh, wait.
You got it?
FBI agent says January 6th was worse than 9/11.
It was an FBI agent?
Well, this was in 2022. According to former FBI agent Peter Strzok, go figure. 9/11 is nothing compared to January 6th in terms of how dangerous it was to American democracy.
Wow, an FBI agent saying that.
I don't know if he was the first one to say it, but I don't need to look any further. But it's Peter Strzok. I mean, if you don't know who Peter Strzok was,
No, I'm not.
he
I heard the name, but I'm not familiar with
all
him.
right. So he was one of the he was one of the front runners on doing the investigation on Donald Trump. He was the one who was texting his concubine that they were going to find a way to stop Donald Trump before Donald Trump was ever elected in 2016.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, this dude was a piece of work long ago.
Not to like give Donald Trump any type of credit, because I think he's an egotistical narcissist. But guess who is the first person to actually indefinitely postpone the Patriot Act?
Jimmy Carter.
Donald Trump.
Oh shit. Damn
The
it.
only first
I was
president-
close. They were both one-term presidents.
Yeah, so Donald Trump and Jimmy Carter. Yeah, that's a close comparison. That's great. I like that's a great joke, Tommy. I love it. But yeah, he did that in I want to say March or April of 2020.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the first. But it's amazing that there's a lot of faults with Donald Trump, but two things that he did that really I really took notice. One was that the indefinite postponement of the freedom of the USA Patriot Act, right? The renaming of it. Also, he's also the only president to actually stop the CIA program of arming the Syrian Mujahideen timber sycamore. He ended it in 2017.
Yeah,
and
I knew about that. Yeah,
that lasted six
well,
years.
he also questioned the existence of NATO, which you would never get.
Oh, I never.
Even though
really?
he didn't do anything about it except for say, look, man, if y'all aren't going to pay your fair share, then there's not going to be any NATO anymore because we're not covering your fucking ass anymore. And it was like, yes, thank you. That was like, all right. The thing with Trump was he wasn't ideological. He was a businessman. He was strictly looking at these things from a CEO's point of view. And he's like, you're asking us to lose money. I don't want to lose money, and that was like the way he attacked it.
Holy mackerel. I had no idea. Thanks for telling me about that. No idea that he did that. He got all the critics and criticisms of Donald Trump. There are many, but you never hear the things they did right, and just like those little things.
Dude,
right there.
He walked across from South Korea to North Korea. He walked across the DNZ with no security. That was incredible.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
he's that type of guy. Well, no one can touch me,
Yeah, exactly. But it was that CEO instinct. It made him actually a better president than we've ever had, and it was his narcissism that made him so bad.
And oh my God, you talk about narcissism. Yeah, he's the most narcissistic president that we probably ever seen in our lifetime.
Right. And it was the narcissism. It was those points of narcissism that was like, dude, you could be doing so much better, but at the same time, he did challenge everything. It was just like, he did challenge things, and it was fun to watch. It was all right, cool. Yeah. Walk across the DNZ. If I'm a detractor of Donald Trump, I'm cheering for him to walk across it. And if I like Donald Trump, I'm cheering for him to walk across it. Because if I'm a detractor, I'm like, maybe he'll get shot on the way there. And
right.
So it's like, all right, like you did something that was like never done before.
Yeah, never. Right.
50 years,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a total disaster now, but I mean, there were some pretty remarkable moments in those 4 years where you're like, really? This guy? All right.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
wouldn't you would think that he would be able to be more in line with the state. You know what? One thing about not to stray away from the topic of the Patriot Act, but
No, we're
you know,
good. We'll probably do another one since you got disconnected. We'll just fucking catch up.
no, that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
just to add to is that Donald Trump is the first president to actually lift the veil about how government is really run and how corrupt it is.
Oh yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
really showed us.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he kind of lost his edge though, man. After being
Yeah,
in
but that's what
office,
happened
it
in
was
Dark
like,
Space.
yeah.
Right.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was like it's so easy to buy these politicians off. It was like he lost his edge, you know.
Yeah, he
Now
was.
he's out there like he's advocating for McCarthy as speaker, and and it's like all the people that were voted into Congress kind of in his shadow are like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, we're not gonna like McCarthy as speaker. Like, we're doing this for a reason. You were the bull in the china shop. We're just here to sweep up the china shop, like,
Bless his heart.
yeah.
Right.
It's like he didn't even understand what his role was, which I think is part of why he lost in 2020 is a lack of understanding what his role was, because it was that anti-establishment perspective that he brought that people really liked. And after becoming president, getting entangled in the establishment, he didn't have that edge to him anymore.
He didn't have the edge to him anymore. Right.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, to quote the Blade Runner, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
yeah.
And that's Donald Trump for you.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, because we're going to probably, I talked about, again, I talked about this with Kyle Matovic. We're probably going to get Governor Ron DeSantis as president in 2024.
You think?
Yeah, I think he wins.
If he runs. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced he's going to run. He hasn't.
You're not convinced he's going to run? He actually said he was going to run.
Did he? What did he say? I missed that. So I didn't know that.
And I just read, and by the way, up here in New York, I don't know if it's in your state, in Texas, the New York Post ran an article yesterday. Guess who's running for president in 2024? The Democrats.
Well, Joe Biden.
Yes. So, in other words, the Republicans are going to win the presidency.
Well, the last person I heard say, like, announce or say they were announcing on the Republican side is who is the guy that Donald Trump had on his staff, that the mustache guy, foreign policy dude. I can't think of his name. I can see
John
his
Bolton.
face. Yes, thank you.
John Bolton.
Yes. Yeah, porn stash McBolton.
He does have a porn stash. Legendary.
Yeah. I could not think John Bolton for the life of me. Thanks for bailing me out.
He's a prick. He's a evil. He should be hung at The Hague.
But from what I understand, he's running, and I'm like, who's going to vote for that guy?
No one's going to. Yeah, no one is going to vote for a snake.
Yeah. So.
But you know what? Just to go back a little bit, a lot of people don't realize is that Bush actually established a law in after the attacks. Like, I think it was like 4 months after the attacks. It was called the President's Surveillance Program. You ever heard about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was part of a program, another program called the Terrorist Surveillance Program, and it was actually established pursuant to an executive order that authorized the NSA to surveil phone calls without a warrant. And actually, the first company to speak out against it was the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which published an article. Quote: It was I think it was called I shouldn't say quote, but it was like AT&T's role in surveillance of U.S. customers or something like that. And it illuminated, it was the first article that called out Bush and illuminated the abuse of privacy laws and cell phone providers who actually, like I said before, were giving the NSA all the customer data. And you talk about that guy that came out in opposition to the NSA. And I forgot who that was, but basically, you know, he got in trouble for it. Now, U.S. Attorney Alberto Gonzalez actually said the program was authorized warrantless intercepting, where the government had a reasonable quote reasonable basis to conclude that one party to the communication is a member of Al Qaeda or affiliated with Al Qaeda, or even a member of an organization affiliated with Al Qaeda or working in support with Al Qaeda, and that one party to the conversation was outside the United States, a foreign entity. So that gave them the wide range of powers outside the United States. So you have all these, you know, you talk about all those provisions at like 31, you say, and then, you know, you have provisions that are coming out after 2001, 2000, those key years between 2001, 2003. And
no,
go ahead.
I was scrolling through it whenever we had lost connection, and one of the things I was shocked about was like 3 of them were during 2014. And it was like, what happened in 2014?
What happened in 2014? That's the Obama administration.
Well, that guy. I guess he got bored between bombing children.
Yeah. Well, the second administration, Obama, was worse than the first, because that's when the invasive privacy laws began.
Right.
And also the funding of the terrorists in Syria, and you know, the programs that were along with that. And of course, you know, that was signed off by Israel, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. But I don't know specifically what happened in 2014. Do you know how many were in 2014?
It was like
5, 6,
3 or 4. Let me look.
Hate to put you in extra
No,
work.
you're fine. I just gotta scroll over here. That's 94, 97, 2001, 2003, 2003, 2004, 2006, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 12, 14, 14, 14. So it was 3 and 14, 3 and 15. Yeah. 3 and 14 and 3 and 15. So you had in 14 blocking property of certain persons contributing to the situation in Ukraine. Oh yeah, we overthrew the government in Ukraine and installed.
Oh, for God's sakes, that's right. That's,
yeah.
I did too. I did a podcast on that. That's right. That is the Revolution of Dignity.
All right. And this one has to do with
February of that year.
Yep.
We overthrew Viktor Yushchenko, actually.
Yeah, because this was signed March 16th, 2014.
Right. And when I say we overthrew Yushchenko, I'm saying that we
CIA,
the nationalists, right? The CIA,
the CIA utilized USAID and funded and overthrew the government of Ukraine to install the government that is now in power.
Right, Viktor Yanukovych. I said his name wrong. Viktor Yanukovych.
Yeah, Yanukovych. There you go.
Yeah.
April of 2014, South Sudan, in respect to their ongoing civil war.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So Dave DeCamp, who's like, he's phenomenal.
DeCamp's awesome.
Yeah, yes. He's a Britannica. Anybody involved with Libertarian Institute?
I should just get him on here and go through each of these dates with him and just be like, or him or Daniel. Oh God, Ron Paul's right hand man, McAdams.
McAdams.
Yeah, Get Daniel McAdams and Dave
Or
DeCamp on
Carl
here.
Anzalone.
Yeah, and
those
just go
guys,
through these dates and just be like, all right, what was this?
yeah. I mean, those guys are just, to me, they're the best when it comes to geopolitics in the country.
Yeah.
Unbiased, unfettered, like they're not persuaded by any type of prejudice, and they just report the news. And
You
they do
ever
it prolifically.
you ever had you ever chatted with Daniel McAdams?
No, I actually, incidentally, Tommy, when Reed Coverdale of the Naturalist Capitalist Show and Eric Jackman, they invited me to go with them to the Libertarian Conference, the Ron Paul Libertarian Conference. I actually went and saw McAdams there. He was speaking.
One of the most fun shows I've ever had in my life was recording with McAdams, man.
Was it?
Oh, he's so good.
He's a
and
great
he's
speaker.
Funny.
Yeah,
Like, I didn't even realize. Like, I've been listening to him for years, but until I started talking to him, I didn't realize how funny he was. And we just had so much fun, just laughing and making jokes. It was a really good episode.
I took away from the whole conference, he was the best speaker there.
Oh, he's good.
Yeah, he's great, man.
Yeah.
And like, I'm 6'10" and he's short. So when I saw him, he was like really short guy. And I said, hey, Dan, that's a great speech. And this and that. He was fantastic.
Yeah. All right. And then we had May of 2014. Central Africa Republic was in response to violence toward humanitarian aid workers. What's going on?
By the way, just to ask Tommy, is this involving As-Sahab, the militant organization affiliated with Al-Qaeda?
It's not mentioning any,
because that's what's involved with the Sudan itself. And
well, yeah, this says so you had the South Sudan Civil War.
Yeah.
In April. In May, contributing to the conflict in the Central African Republic, which I'm not sure which Central African Republic that's talking about. Then March 8th, 2015, suspending entry of certain persons contributing to the situation in Venezuela. All right. So April 1st of 2015, engaging in significant malicious cyber-enabled activities, Chinese cyber attacks. So this that was specifically to do with China. November of 2015, situation in Burundi.
Oh, Brunei. Okay.
I'm sorry, how do you say it?
Brunei.
Okay. After a failed coup. I don't think I'm familiar with that.
I'm not.
Okay. So that's what you had going on in 2014 and 15. So.
But, the public won't know that because they're too busy talking about Tom Brady. I hate to use that. I overuse that term. I always say the public is used to Tom Brady's stats with Kim Kardashian's rear. I don't say anything else, like a broken record. Right. So yeah, but so you're talking about the important issues that we should be talking about, that like the Libertarian Institute talks about.
Yeah.
And
like I said, I'll send you that article.
Yeah, please do, because
I didn't know you had never seen it. So
yeah, because you know what I'll do is I'll even do a YouTube video about that too.
Yeah. So
I thank you very much for bringing that up.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, I mean, like, what does this have to do with the Patriot Act? People are saying, but it has everything to do with it, because everything is an extension of the September 11th attacks, and the main ripple effect is the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is a huge ripple effect.
Yeah. The reason they're able to go after parents that are speaking out at PTA meetings is because of the Patriot Act. That's right. What they're utilizing the Patriot Act to call you a domestic terrorist for disagreeing with them, or for being in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. They're utilizing the Patriot Act, the powers that they absorbed through the Patriot Act, to go after these people.
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up because I totally forgot. Now, I live in New York, and I don't, by the way, I don't read the New York Post. It's a rag. People know the Post is a rag for decades here in New York. But nevertheless, thankfully, the Post did something right, which is a left-leaning newspaper. The New York actually sued Joe Biden. And what they did was that Biden administration authorized the FBI to conduct surveillance on the parents protesting the school boards that you brought up. I'm so glad you brought this up.
Right.
Because, and I don't know where this guy's from. He's an attorney named, I'm going to say his last name wrong. It's Todd Rokia or something like that. I don't know. I can't say his name right. Thank you, New York accent. You know, I have this lousy New York accent. Anyway, he's a former member of Congress. And he actually took the lead in the lawsuit against the Biden administration and the Attorney General Garland,
Merrick
Garland.
Garland. Yeah.
Right. And who's the and of course the Education Secretary Miguel Cardona. So he opened up this lawsuit against them, and it was just this guy from Indiana. I think it was from Indiana or Illinois, somewhere in the north the north of the region, and actually opened up a suit against the Biden administration and his legal counsel, because Biden authorized the Department of Justice to wiretap, you know, the families of who are protesting school boards.
Well, you know how it started, right?
No, tell me.
So it was like the DOJ sent the school boards a letter that the school boards then signed and sent back to the DOJ, claiming that there were radical parents or that were showing up to these meetings and were wreaking havoc, and the teachers feared for their lives. So basically what the DOJ did was say, if you send us this letter signed, then we will come and investigate the parents that are causing problems. So the DOJ wrote the letter, sent it to the school board signed it, sent it back to the DOJ, and then the DOJ started investigating the parents.
And I believe Biden actually tried to invoke the Patriot Act in regards to domestic terrorism on those parents. But because of Trump, he suspended the Patriot Act, so he couldn't actually enact it. Wow.
Eesh.
Yeah. Hope and change.
Yeah.
They don't listen. We, you know, me and Tommy are preaching to the choir, because everybody who listens to the show knows that there's no difference between left and right. But, you know, for those who are new, you know, there is only one party. And as George Carlin said, you ain't in it.
Yeah.
Ain't in it.
I don't know, man. After seeing all that, the crap going on between Gates and Boebert and McCarthy, and I'm like,
oh my God, right.
I kind of like Gates, man. And I kind of like Boebert.
he's a creeper. He's a creeper. It's like, a broken clock is right twice a day. Broken clock is right twice a day.
Right. Well, somebody said the other day that Boebert was going to get kicked out of Congress and start an OnlyFans, and I'd be like, I'll be the first subscriber. I'd pay her to teach me how to cook. Like, I don't care, man. Like,
she might do well.
That chick's fighting. That chick is in there fighting, because you know she's just
you'll be a millionaire many times over. She does that.
Yeah, well, she's just an average freaking restaurant owner from Colorado who got tired of gun laws. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm on your side. I don't agree with everything she says, but at least I'm on her side. At least I know she's a normal person.
Normal. Define normal.
Normal, like blue collar, like.
Okay, I agree. I was just about to say that she resonates with the working community, like the blue collar.
Yeah,
she resonates. That's why I think, you know, I told this to Kyle yesterday.
Marjorie Taylor Greene does too.
Yeah, but, oh, man, Can we get better advocates here, Tommy?
She's just not. But you see here's the thing, man. All right. So I work for a lumber store, right? And so when I hear like Gates or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert speak, I hear a customer. I hear somebody I deal with daily. So to me, it doesn't bother me. I'm like, all right, I don't agree with you, but you're not being a total fucking asshole, and that's kind of the way I look at it. Whereas if I hear McConnell speak or Biden or Kevin McCarthy or any of these like career politicians, I have nothing in common with those people.
Right, exactly.
Like, at least with this other group of people, I'm like, at least I have something in common with these people.
The language.
I could go sit down at a diner and have a conversation with them.
No, you can't.
I could.
I
may walk away frustrated, but I could have a conversation with them.
Tommy, you're much more universal than them. I mean, God's sakes, from just talking.
Man, I'm just a redneck, man. I have chickens.
You're modest. But you're dripping with modesty. They're not. I mean, they're very obtuse. But but I agree with you. Like, they speak the language of the people, which is the reason why I think in the future, like, they're going to create their own party.
Yeah.
Again, I brought this up with Kyle too. I think what's going to happen is going to be a split in the conservative party. There's going to be a big split: the Trumpers and the DeSantis people.
Yeah. For real. But I won't even insult like the kind of MAGA side of the Republican Party, because like you said, they speak the language. So I'm like, at least we have some like down to earth people like trying to represent somebody,
Well, that's where the left went wrong. I mean, because they don't do well with reading the people. And it's something that I find absurd that, Biden got 81 million votes when just 4 years prior, we had the largest non-voting turnout in history.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me we had the largest voting turnout in history 4 years later?
Well, I don't think it was voting turnout. I think it was I think they found a way to between mail-in ballots and going around and picking up ballots. I think they figured out a way to move people that wouldn't normally vote.
Yeah, I hear you.
And like, if you have a ballot show up on your doorstep as opposed to having to go somewhere and do something, you're going to react differently to it, right?
Sure.
Maybe you're not going to leave the house and go vote, but if it shows up in the mail and all you got to do is check a box and sign your name, that's like nothing.
Literally, yeah, it's literally nothing.
So I think they found a loophole, a catch-22, where they could.
I mean, look,
they've been trying to get 16-year-olds to vote. I mean, like, they don't care if you're interested in voting. They just want your vote.
They just want you to vote, right? They just want you. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. They want the power that you have the ability to give them. And if they could get 8-year-olds to vote, they would.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put no limits on them.
They don't care about the quality. They want the quantity.
Right, exactly.
Because that's what democracy is, right? It's popularity rules.
True.
So that's it. That's the whole game. Get the most votes, not the best votes. All the smartest people in the world could vote for the Republicans. The Republicans could get 20 votes. The Democrats could get 5 million. Who has more votes? Doesn't matter if the smartest people in the world voted for the Republicans. The Democrats win because they have more votes.
Tommy Salmons is an enemy combatant.
Well, I think that seems like a good place to shut it down.
Listen, we're the final frontier. We're the final enemy.
Yeah.
There's going to be no more enemies to defeat.
Right.
I spoke about, when I interviewed Dave DeCamp for the podcast, my podcast, I said off the air, I said, because I once asked Scott Horton, what would be the more realistic war, China, Russia, or Iran? And I said Iran, and that was about 3 years ago. And I wonder if he changes his mind. I don't know, but I'm still going to hold true to it. And
Iran is difficult unless you draw them out of their own country.
Yeah, this was the Horton argument. This was the Horton argument. I agree, because when I interviewed Lawrence Wilkerson, he said the same thing, similar to it.
Yeah.
So what I think is going to happen is, by the way, I'm not a sage, so it's only a prediction, and I think DeSantis wins, and because DeSantis is in. Is a high.
I think if he runs, for sure he wins. I do. I think Trump has kind of thrown in the towel. Like if you listen to him recently, he just sounds like a blubbering fool. And like more so than he did before. It's kind of like he doesn't even care at this moment.
Yeah.
I think DeSantis has all the momentum and all the passion behind him. And that's what won for Trump in 2016 was passion. Sure. It's not because he was the best candidate. It's because he had all the passion behind him.
He was also running against the most unpassionate person in Hillary Clinton.
Well, I mean, even if you look at the primaries, like he had 17 Republicans he had to get through. You had Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush. He had to get through all those. And what drove him was the passion. It wasn't because he was the smartest one on the stage,
Right. Well, he wasn't.
Yeah. Ever.
But he had charm.
Even when Hillary Clinton was on stage, he was still not the smartest one on stage.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hillary Clinton is much smarter.
Oh, she's
smarter.
She's brilliant. It doesn't mean I like her. I just know she's smart.
Exactly.
I just know better than to underestimate that bitch.
No, don't, because that's how you can end up dead.
Yes.
But anyway, did anyone know that there was a CIA kill list?
Yes.
Right after September 11, 2001.
Yeah.
Actually, the CIA was granted permission to use a rendition in the rendition program along with the kill list. It was actually approved by Bush.
Yep. And then Obama put it into action.
Put it into effect with the drone program. Then Trump even went further than that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that Trump actually authorized the most drone strikes in history.
Yep.
Stunning when you think about it.
Yeah.
So that's why there is no divisional party line here, folks. Now I wonder if that CIA kill list exists still.
Bet it does.
I wonder.
I'm sure they don't show it to Biden. He'd probably say it in an interview or something.
Right, because he would actually just say it because I can't believe that they'll throw him out there again. What are you doing to the poor? Let him go in a home. The rest of the poor guy.
Yeah, it went from I felt bad for the guy at one point, and it was like this is elderly abuse.
This is abuse.
To just finding it completely hilarious. Like I was just. All right,
can you imagine?
If I gotta live with this for 4 years, I'm gonna laugh at it.
I mean, well, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, it's better than crying.
It's horrible, man.
I mean, really, he's the oldest president in history, with Donald Trump being the second oldest president in history. What is he? I think he's 81, Joe Biden.
81 or 82, yeah, he's somewhere around there.
All right, so the primaries in 2024? He's 80 years old. So he'll be 81 this year, Joe Biden. So you're telling me that he'll be 82 years old running for president? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Democrats, the hell's wrong with you? You have a young guy who I think would be a much better electee, in Gavin Newsom. He's a freaking authoritarian, but Gavin Newsom is like half his age.
Yeah. Well, he's a good-looking dude. He's charismatic. It's like I can disagree with his politics all day long, but at least I could understand why you would like him. I look at Biden and I'm like, I don't know why anybody likes this guy.
I don't know how he got 81 million. I don't know
It's like,
how
yeah,
did 81 million.
everybody wonders why do Trump supporters think that Biden stole the election? Have you seen Biden? Like, all you got to do is look at Biden and go, there's no way. No way he got 81 million votes.
I don't know how he got more votes than Obama.
Right.
And Obama killed both of his opponents.
Yeah.
Destroyed the both of them, but he never got anywhere near the votes for Biden. And so all this, listen, all this for those out there who are critiquing the January 6th riots. If you're going to complain about electoral fraud, let me tell you something. The United States does it to every other country on the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a break about you complaining about.
And the U.S. will send in freaking military to overthrow the government that they think is illegitimately elected.
You had a guy who is dressed as a ram's horn going into the the House of Representatives. Give me a break. This is a far cry than having CIA right-wing authoritarians conquering a Central American state like Ecuador or Honduras.
Right.
Using right-wing militias.
Yeah.
Those guys didn't even have a damn knife. But they have zip ties. They're gonna capture Alexander Cortez. What were they going to do with her?
I could think of a couple of things to do with it.
You would. No, but I'm like, come on. The Oath Keepers, by the way, the FBI had informants inside that group. Like, come, give me a break. Really?
Right.
You called that a overthrow?
Right.
No, overthrow would have been, hey, let's go over to the Federal Reserve Building and start overthrowing the people there. Oh, let's go to CIA Langley headquarters. Let's do it with the right places.
Right.
Oh yeah, we put a scare in the Capitol, right? We put a scare. Good.
It was funny watching them duck under chairs.
Yeah, listen, but that's where you want people in power and want to be, that the people can take away the power that we give them.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Now,
when the people fear the government, you have tyranny. When the government fears the people, you have liberty.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Yeah.
And that's true. Look, I would rather.
I think that was Jefferson that said that.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I would rather have it that way because I even said, wow, I agree with the premise, but I hated the fact that they went on, it was election.
My buddy Bird. I don't know if you've ever heard Timeline Earth. But my buddy Bird, he called it the Reichstag fart.
Okay, I have to use that one. That's a great. I love it. Yeah, look, it's such a joke to call that worse than 9/11 itself. And of course, the Democrats and the intelligence services will, of course, inflame. Oh, it was an attack on our democracy. What do you call the Patriot Act? What do you call the Freedom Act? What do you call the National Authorization Act?
But that's not their democracy. Like, you have to understand what they mean by their democracy is the rightful ownership of the power that they are entitled to.
Right.
And by they, I mean the Democratic Party.
Yeah, sure.
Right. See, this is why it's so much easier to get in line with more of the Republicans than it is the Democrats, because the Republicans aren't near as an authoritarian, right? So you'll have like your Mitch McConnells and your Kevin McCarthy's, the guys that have been in office forever, but most of the Republicans don't want authority over your life. Every single one of the Democrats wants you to bow down and allow them to make your child a transgender. That's the difference.
Yeah, well, look, that's another issue for another podcast.
Well, but I'm just saying, there's this difference in the authoritarian ideals of both parties, at least at this moment. Right? It could have been different in the past. It could be different in the future. At this moment, we're looking at it, and it is a specific thing. And the Democrats are authoritarians, and much more so than the Republicans are. And so it's much easier to get behind the Republicans and say, you know what, I'd rather like support this dude and see that bitch lose, like Blake Masters. I'd rather support Blake Masters, you know, than anybody on the Democrat side. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, they make it so easy to hate them.
Oh yeah, I have no affiliation with anybody on the list.
I know you don't. I'm just making a point.
No, right.
That it's very much easier to line up with the Republicans at this point in time in history than it is the Democrats, because they are so out of their fucking mind right now.
Right. You know what? It's funny that you bring that up about Blake Masters. Didn't Dave Smith catch a little flack for that because he backed Blake Masters instead of
Yeah, he did. It was stupid.
Right. I saw that. Yeah. And I was like, well, all right, you know, pick your poison, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What was it? Who was the other person?
I mean, if your choice is Blake Masters or Kristen Sinema, who are you going to choose?
Right.
You know, like, that's not who he was running against. I'm just making a point. Like, you got two politicians from Arizona. You have Kristen Sinema, Blake Masters. Choose one. Make your choice. Oh no, I went to Libertarian. Fuck you, dude. That's not a choice. Your choices are Blake Masters or Kristen Sinema. Make your choice. You know, it's like sometimes you just got to understand that you don't have to like the choices. You have to make a choice. You know,
but do you have to make a choice?
Right. If you don't want to make a choice, don't make a choice. But you still made a choice.
Right. I choose not to choose.
You choose not to choose. That's a Rush song.
What's that?
That's a Rush song.
Is it really? You know, I never was a big fan of Rush.
Yeah, he says something along the lines of, even if you don't decide, you still have made a choice.
That's true, though.
Yeah.
It's true, right?
You decided, you made the choice that you're not going to choose out of these two, and that you're going to let other people choose for you. So, all right.
Well, listen, if other people want to choose the destruction of their own country, go right ahead. I won't play.
Well, sometimes you just got to choose what speed it goes in.
Well, you know, George Carlin had a great bit about that, about people, you know, the non-voters.
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't vote, then, you know, you're the problem. Well, no, you're the ones who voted for the people.
Yeah, you can't blame me. I didn't do it.
That's what I love that argument. I love it. The defense of it.
I mean, sometimes like I said, sometimes you're just choosing what speed you're going in the destruction. It's like, how fast do you want to see it destroyed? Because you're still going in the same direction.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about religious fanatics, well, then, I mean, let's, you know, vote for John Hagee, for God's sakes. He just wants the end of the world.
I'd say vote for John Chrysostom.
Who is? I've heard this name before.
He was a saint. He's a saint.
Chrysostom?
Yeah, Chrysostom. Yeah. Wrote several books. He organized, he wrote out the liturgy that's used in Orthodox Christianity. Yeah. So
really?
Yeah. Back in like 400 AD.
Good Lord, really?
Yeah. So
that's too long ago there.
Well, that's why I said vote for that guy. The last thing he's going to do is screw shit up.
Right, exactly. You know, you ever wonder what people were like back then? And they could see right now, they probably want us to end it all.
They might. Sometimes I want us to end it all.
You're like, you just want to see the world burn.
No, I don't want to just see the world burn. I just want to see my kids succeed. That's it.
You got kids, right? You want. That's why you do what you do. So
yeah. I have 5 kids. I have 5 kids and a granddaughter. So yeah.
Oh, so there you go. All right. Yeah. So you're fighting the good fight, Tom.
Yeah, trying to.
That's why you have the show.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I told you.
It's not my ego.
No, well, God sake, you're making a dime off this. I said the same thing to Kyle too. He's not doing it for the money, but he's trying to reach an audience that, hey, listen, we got to pay attention to problems that are, prescient to the
right. To humanity. Yeah. I mean, I make a little bit of money off of it, but I don't make a whole lot. But I've
Oh
been
my God.
doing it for a while too.
You're not Andrew Tate.
No, I'm not. No,
Million.
no, I'm not. Nowhere close. I still drive a
no way,
truck every
right?
day. So
God's sakes.
yeah, I
Oh,
still drive truck every day. I don't make enough money to not do anything else. It's just, yeah, I make a little bit of money, but it's not anything writing. I'm not writing home about it. You know.
yeah, no, that's right. You know, that's another thing about the Libertarian Institute, members of Libertarian Institute. They're all like blue collar, every single one of them.
Bullshit. Patrick McFarland's a fucking attorney.
In a small town in Colorado or wherever he's from, right?
He's up north. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's not like a big league. He's not like, the devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
he is. He started his own firm, has his own podcast. Real scummy guy.
He's barely getting along, the poor guy. Come on.
I love Patrick.
Oh, he's great. He's fantastic. I love that.
But hey, man, I need to call it quits. I haven't eaten yet. I'm getting hungry. Yeah, we are. I can chat with you.
We're supposed to be talking about depressing subjects, Tommy.
Yeah, I know. But it's a good thing we started off with the depressing subjects, and now everybody can laugh and say, "Oh, these guys really do like each other."
That's right. hey, we are human beings, not androids.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you just get to a point where you're like, "All right, I'm tired of talking about that shit. Like, let's just talk."
Right.
Yeah,
it's true.
But yeah, I'm gonna go eat. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm gonna go
pal.
eat and get some rest.
Do that. It is. Hey, listen, I love this recording, by the way. This is great.
This was fun, brother. And I'm gonna get back in touch with you. We're gonna do some more on 9/11. We're gonna have to chat and figure out which direction we want to go from here.
Well, wherever you want to go to it, Tommy, I'm all for it. So
yeah, well, I got to get with you to find out what's left.
Sure. This is the 9th episode, right?
Yeah, this is the 9th episode, and we've done the dancing Israelis, Saudi Arabia, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we did, because I have the all downloaded, and we covered a lot.
Yeah,
but yeah, wherever you want to go with it, Tommy, I'm with you. So
sounds good, man.
You're a pleasure to work with.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're gonna do some more episodes. This has been fun, and I don't want to stop yet. I think there's a lot more to go. Yeah,
there is. But yeah, of course, I'll always work with you. You're a great conversationalist, brother.
All right, bro. Well, you have a good night, man.
All right, Tommy. I'll see you this week or something.
All right, buddy.
Take care, brother.